There are some stories you tell so often they almost become rehearsed. And then there are stories you avoid so well that even you don't want to think about them. Today's story falls squarely into that second category. Welcome to Smith History, separating the Smith from the myth. I'm Brian Smith. And today is about gratitude. It's about thankfulness. It's about God's grace and mercy in my life. And it's about a personal story I don't talk about very often. Honestly, I don't even like to think about it. But with the 40th anniversary coming up this year, I think it's time. Because some stories don't lose their power with age. They gain it. Seems like a long time ago. I was working at Wyandotte Manor in Upper Sandusky, Ohio. I was just weeks away from graduating nursing school. I had one foot in my old life and one foot in the new one. I was still working as an orderly, finishing out my shifts before stepping into my brand new career as a nurse. I was still young. I was hopeful. I was tired. And I was working the evening shift. That night, I got paged for a phone call. Now, if you've ever worked in a hospital or nursing home, you know. Being paged for a phone call usually means something boring. A schedule question. Someone asking if you can cover a shift. So I answered the phone nonchalantly. And in one sentence, my life split cleanly in two. The voice on the other end said, "Your son Keith has been hit by a car." Here's the strange thing. I have what I call an elephant's memory. I can recall tiny details from decades ago. The color of a car, the smell of a room, a throwaway comment someone made in 1972. My podcasts are built on that memory. But not this night. 40 years later, I do not remember who I spoke to on the phone. I don't remember their voice. I don't remember if they were calm or panicked. I don't remember if they said more than that one sentence. Trauma does that. It edits your memory without asking permission. I don't even remember telling my supervisor I was leaving. I assume I did. I do remember a coworker wishing me the best as I ran toward the door. I don't remember driving my car. Not a single turn, not a stoplight, not a road. My body took over. My mind checked out. My son Keith had just turned 3 years old. And that's all I knew as I drove. I didn't know how bad his injuries were. I didn't know if he was conscious. I didn't know if he would walk again. I only knew one thing. He was alive. And I thanked Almighty God for that. Over and over and over. When I finally saw him, he was with his grandmother. He was awake, bruised, groggy, in pain. But he would live. And I cried like I had never cried before. Tears of gratitude, tears of shock, tears from realizing just how close I came to losing him. Eventually, I asked how it happened. Keith had been at church with his mother and grandmother and his brother, Greg. They all got into the car to go home. Normally, they parked in the back church parking lot. But not that night. That night they parked on the street in front of the church. Keith's mother realized she'd forgotten something inside and got out of the car. And inexplicably, Keith's grandmother got out too. That left a 3-year-old alone in the car with his brother Greg. Greg also got out. And of course, Keith followed them. Of course he did. He was 3. And that's when it happened. A young man, about 20 years old, was driving down the street. He later said he had slowed at a stop sign and had just begun to accelerate. And in that instant, Keith darted in front of his car. The car struck him at approximately 30 miles an hour. The police report said my son was thrown more than 30 feet down the street. No other cars were involved. And here's the part that still takes my breath away. Because the driver had slowed before accelerating, because he hadn't yet reached full speed, it likely saved my son's life. The injuries were serious. Multiple contusions, bruises, a concussion. Keith couldn't walk for weeks. Looking back now, 40 years later, I can admit something I didn't want to admit then. I was angry. Angry at Keith's grandmother. Why did she get out of the car? You cannot trust a 3-year-old to make a decision like that. Of course, he would follow. It was almost a fatal mistake. But anger fades, and grace takes its place. They say guardian angels walk the earth. I believe that with 100% certainty. A guardian angel stood between my son and death that night. On my weekends off, Keith, Keefers as I always called him, was with me at my apartment. I remember carrying him everywhere for weeks because he couldn't walk. So I carried him to the couch. I carried him to bed. I carried him outside. He was a big boy. My arms got tired, but my heart never did. Slowly he healed. Facial cuts faded. Lacerations closed. Bruises disappeared. The concussion cleared. He was going to be okay. The mental scars took longer, but I still had my little Keefers. That summer of 1986, I spent every free moment with him. We went bike riding a lot. I bought a toddler bike seat and I mounted it on my bike, and Keith loved it. He wouldn't get away from me if I paid him. Wind in his face, my arms wrapped tight around those handlebars. And I'll tell you this, I pedaled like a man who had been given a second chance, because I had. Later that summer, I met a girl named Patty Stone. She had started working at Wyandotte Manor that spring. By summer, I was a brand new nurse. We started dating. And when I first went to her apartment, I brought Keith with me. By then, he was healed. When Patty first met Keith, she immediately took to him. That was her nature. Gentle, soft-spoken, kind. I told her his story. She just listened. And Keith bonded with her instantly, drawn in by her calm voice and patient heart. When I brought him to her apartment in those early years, he went everywhere with her. I think he knew before I did that she was permanent. That shy little 3-year-old with the big eyes, well, he's now 6'6" tall. and he talks Patty's ear off every time they're together. 40 years went by in the blink of an eye. The first time Keith met Patty, he was too shy to speak to her. Now her name is Patty Smith, and he doesn't stop talking. 6 was the year I graduated nursing school. It was the year I met Patty. And it was the year Patty met a cherub-faced little boy who had survived the unthinkable. It was a year of new beginnings. And above all else, it was a year of God's mercy and grace. Every time I see Keith, I'm reminded of that. And that is Smith history, separating the Smith from the myth. I'm Brian Smith, and we are history.